to start with the first story that you have, one of the first stories that you have posted up there on the Breaking News blog, and it's about Texas. So Texas is introducing the Women's Privacy Act?
Yes, this is another one of those bathroom bills. It's very similar to what's going on in North Carolina, and it was introduced in the last week by Senator Lois Colquitt of the state of Texas. And what it will do is it will preempt all laws that are allowing men who identify as women to use women's private facilities in businesses, in schools, wherever. And the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, is very, very staunchly defending this bill, calling it the right thing to do. And he says, the people of Texas elected us to stand up for common decency, common sense, and public safety. And that's exactly what this bill is designed to do, to give women protection against having men coming in there who just decide that day that they identify as a woman and they can just walk in and use their restrooms. I think that's just insanity. I have never been able to wrap my head around that.
Right.
So when I see these bills come out, I just breathe a sigh of relief that at least in the state of Texas, these new trends in gender identity are not going to be able to endanger women. So, and it's called SB 6 is the name of the bill, SB 6, the Women's Privacy Act. It's also going to ensure that businesses have the freedom to determine their own bathroom policies, and no public school will be able to institute a bathroom policy that allows boys to go into girls' restrooms, showers, or locker rooms, and vice versa. Girls are not going to be able to go into boys either. So that's what it is. And as expected, the LGBT community came out with with disdain over this law, and of course they threw around what they usually do, and that is it's going to cost the state all kinds of money. $8.5 billion is the number that they're tossing around out there. But the lieutenant governor kind of scoffed at the study that they're using for that and says that they're fear-mongering with misinformation. And he said, economic doom, the Super Bowl is teed up for 5:30 p.m. on February 7th. So in other words, forget it. It's not working. Mm-hmm. It's not what's going to happen here in Texas. And they're getting praised from all over for it. Liberty Counsel is praising them for it. That's a nonprofit legal organization that's dedicated to protecting family values and has been in the forefront of the fight against these radical bathroom and transgender issues. And they're saying that it was just very, very needed. We need to protect the privacy, safety, and dignity of citizens in intimate settings like showers and locker rooms. You just have to do that. You can't just let anybody walk into the restroom of their choice. So the Women's Privacy Act has now been introduced, and it's going to make its way through the legislature there, and it is predominantly Republican legislators, so it's expected to pass. So let's just see how that process goes, and I'm sure that we're going to be hearing a lot more about this.
Sure, and that you are going to be following up on this story. So
absolutely.
To our listeners and myself, womenofgrace.com, breaking news blog where Sue Brinkman, our guest today, posts her breaking news stories, and she does posting several times a day, so you can be in the know. And our listeners, Sue, I'm thinking might be thinking about this and thinking, how can we get this happening in our state, or what is the likelihood of this happening or not happening in my home state? Give us a call and share in with us, 1-800-585-9396. That number again is 1-800-585-9396. The story we're talking about, a new front has opened in the transgender bathroom war in the state of Texas, introducing a new lawsuit that will require men and women to use restrooms that correspond with their biological gender, not with what they identify as. And this is a very important moment in the history of this country. I also think, Sue, about our young men and women, our teenagers, our children in schools, and how this might form or misform their conscience. You have had experience working with young people. What is your take on this?
Well, I can tell you this, that young girls, and that's really who I worked with in the Young Women of Grace program, and in discussing this one day in our class, what do they think about it? Because in my class, in one of the classes that I teach, it was predominantly public school girls, Catholic girls in public schools, and they were just beside themselves that a boy could walk into their restroom or locker room. And the whole time they were talking to me, their body language was, they were like pulling their sweaters closed and like they were trying to cover themselves. You could see that they were just freaked out by the whole idea of it. And I can say that girls of that age, and I'm talking about 13, 14, 15, and 16-year-old girls, they are not ready to have boys come into their private facilities. This is just lunacy.
Well,
and
should they ever be like us adult grown women? Should we ever be ready to see that?
No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't, but I mean, you're really scarring these younger girls. I mean, we at least know that you could just swat them with your pocketbook, and run out or something. But, these young girls, they're just, and many of them at that age, too, and we encounter this in Young Women of Grace, they're very self-conscious. They're particularly self-conscious at that age of their looks and what they look like. They're now being influenced, by the media, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, gosh, I don't think I'm as pretty as the other girls. They're very, very almost obsessed with that at this age. And then to throw them into that situation on top of that, I think is just really inviting a lot of trouble, a lot of trauma, emotional trauma, psychological trauma on these young girls. Even if, nothing happens in the locker room, just to know that there's a boy in the shower with them is just, to me, terrifying. It's terrifying. And they're young girls. I don't know why this is in the schools. And we all have a feeling that this new administration is just going to toss out this guidance letter that was issued by the Department of Education earlier last year. And we're all hoping that that's just going to get tossed out into the trash can and we're going to stop this nonsense. But unfortunately, it's already kind of gotten itself into the courts. There's some court cases going on. They're going to have to be adjudicated before we get to a final decision about it. But hopefully it will stamp out this mad rush that we were in at one point during last year, if you remember.
Yes.
Popping up everywhere.
Oh, goodness, yes.
But now you've got other states. North Carolina's one. Now we have Texas. You have Virginia and Kentucky. They have also proposed or passed gender-separate bathroom legislation. So this is now a trend that hopefully will pick up, and other states will do it. And the one way you can get your state to do it is you got to contact your state representatives, and you have to tell them you don't want this in your state. You want to see women and just children in general, because boys also don't want to have girls in there with them. Just to protect them, they can always just put up in that school somewhere a bathroom that transgender children can use to feel comfortable without really threatening the privacy of everybody else in that school. I really think that that's the way to go about it. That's the common sense way to go about it, and they should just contact your representatives and let them know how you feel about it. And hopefully you can spark somebody in there will put forth some legislation.
And that is a great suggestion, and always keeping in mind the formation of young children. If you have a question for Sue Brinkman, our guest today on Women of Grace here on EWTN Radio, about how to speak to young men and women, especially young women, about what is going on around them, what they are seeing, and how to form them in the faith and keep them in the faith, this is the show to call. The number again is 1-800-585-9396. That number again is 1-800-585-9396 to be here on EWTN Radio's Women of Grace. In a moment, we'll continue talking with Sue Brinkman about the news stories of the week, and very especially what is coming up for the March for Life. And what is the lineup of speakers? You will be very interested to know. There have been some late breaking news developments in the line of speakers, so we're all looking ahead to that as EWTN is preparing to bring you cover-to-cover coverage of the March for Life in Washington, D.C., as well as the Walk for Life, West Coast, San Francisco, and One Life, L.A. All something very great to look forward to here on EWTN. We continue with Women of Grace and the breaking news stories with Sue Brinkman here in just a moment. Stay tuned.
January 13, Feast of St. Hilary, Bishop and Doctor. St. Hilary said, "I am well aware, Almighty God and Father, that in my life I owe you a most particular duty. It is to make my every thought and word speak of you." Let us reflect. What virtue can you practice today to help accomplish this in a practical way, so that your every thought and every word might speak of God, explicitly or implicitly.
If you'd like to receive a daily Grace Line by email, go to womenofgrace.com and click on the word Grace Line, and then check the box Receive Grace Lines. That's womenofgrace.com.
Hello, friends. I'm Janet Benkovic. At Women of Grace, we like to simplify and amplify all of our apostolic efforts to provide cutting-edge, state-of-the-art assistance for your journey of faith. This is why we are offering for just $8.95 per month a Women of Grace membership. In it, you're going to be provided with products including TV episodes, radio programs, CDs, webinars, and so much more, all for your viewing and listening pleasure at your convenience. Visit our website at www.womenofgrace.com.
EWTN Radio Classics is our 24/7 teaching and devotionals channel featuring Mother Angelica, Patrick Madrid, Father Benedict Groeschel, and more. Find them online at EWTNradio.net. Now available on the EWTN app.
Hello, this is Bishop Robert Baker from the Diocese of Birmingham in Alabama.
I'm Peggy Normandin, but you can call me Catholic.
Hello, friends. This is Father Wade Menezes of the Fathers of Mercy. Thanks for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
14 minutes past the hour here on EWTN Radio's Women of Grace. Elena Rodriguez sitting in for Janet Benkovic with our guest, Sue Brinkman, our staff researcher and journalist at womenofgrace.com. And you can call in with your questions or comments or asking for advice on how to speak to a friend or how to speak to a younger person about what is going on, something that we have mentioned here on the news, or just something that has struck and surprised a friend of yours, a relative, a loved one, even a younger person. How to talk with the truth and bring up the facts. Sue Brinkman is here to take your calls, in addition to all the topics that we are mentioning right now, and Sue is sharing the breaking news stories of the week with us here on Women of Grace. The number to call, 1-800-585-9396. Matt Gabinski, our call screener, very friendly guy, is looking forward to talking to you. 1-800-585-9396 is the number. And you can also chime in on our YouTube chat by going to youtube.com and then going to, on the search bar, type EWTN channel, and it'll take you to our live webcast right now. You can type in your comment with social media manager Jeff Burson there, minding the chat and taking this webcast to you on the airwaves right now through the internet. So, Sue, we have one of these other stories that you have posted up on your breaking news blog on womenofgrace.com about the speakers for the March for Life, and you're leading in talking about Kellyanne Conway.
Yes, the new counselor to the president-elect.
Mm-hmm.
Kellyanne Conway is going to be speaking on the National Mall right before the march, and everybody, of course, is very thrilled to have her there. She's just a really, really well-spoken advocate for life. She's a Catholic. She's got 4 children who she just adores, and a husband, and she puts her family first, much to the ire of a lot of feminists. And she doesn't hide it. This is just, who she is. But she's just a great lady, and she has fought for life for all of her life. She was, as I said, raised a Catholic. She's a graduate of St. Joseph's High School in New Jersey. She also went to what was called Trinity College at the time and got her BA in political science and then her Juris Doctor from George Washington University Law. So she's very, very well educated. But as I said, she's a classic conservative. She calls herself a Gen X conservative and is vehemently opposed to abortion. She once said, "We grew up with sonograms. We know life when we see it."
Oh,
yeah, so she's
what
not
a
one
statement.
She does not back down. She was the president and CEO of the polling company, Inc., which is also known as Women Trend, and she conducted polls very often for pro-life organizations such as Students for Life of America, the National Right to Life Committee. So she's been very active that way. But she's also, she's not afraid to come nose to nose with pro-abortion people. She was once on the stage with President Cecile Richards. This was in 2012 during the Mitt Romney-Barack Obama presidential campaign. And Richards was talking about abortion and contraception as a basic health care issue. And Kellyanne just had a problem with that. And she said, my polling finds that women don't limit their view of health care services as just those, used by the abortion industry to promote their agenda, is the way she kind of put it. And then, of course, Richards chimed in and said, that's not what I meant. I mean, we also take care of cancer and all that kind of stuff, cancer treatments and that, or cancer screening and that sort of thing. And Kellyanne shots back and she goes, well, I didn't hear you say that today. And your group is, after all, called Planned Parenthood. It's not called Planning to be an Octogenarian. So, I mean, she really, she just is very quick-witted. And she just knows how to get those classic one-liners in there. But she's also, like she said, very devoted to her family. She has 4 children. 2 of them are twins, and they come first. She said, I see a lot of people on the weekend spending an awful lot of time on their golf games, and that's their right, she said, but the kids will be with me on my weekends. We live in the same house, and they come first. And she was asked, well, how does the president-elect feel about, her very strong family loyalty? And she said he actually thinks it's pretty cool. So she's not having a problem there.
What a relief to hear.
Yeah. So, but she's going to be also joined on stage by Archbishop of New York, Cardinal Timothy Dolan, and then a former Planned Parenthood director and founder of And Then There Were None, Abby Johnson, Mexican telenovela star Karim Lozano.
Oh, yes.
Eric Metaxas. I'm not sure how you can say his name. Metaxas. He is a author and radio host. And then Bishop Vincent Matthews. He's of the Church of God in Christ, and he is a strong advocate for adoption in the African-American community rather than abortion.
God bless his ministry.
Yeah, that's very, very needed. So anyway, Conway is, kind of like the big headliner for this. And she's just, I think, the perfect example of how women can fulfill this mission of fighting for life wherever they are in life and however they're able. She did it with her polling company. She does it now as she's moving into her new roles here in the incoming Trump administration. Her voice is going to be heard from wherever she is in life, and we can all do that wherever we are. In your child's play group, in your parish. I mean, wherever you are in life, you can speak up for life. You can speak up for life. Just do your part wherever you are, and we're going to make this a pro-life society. We will once again become, I think, a culture of life rather than a culture of death. If we all just do our own little part. And she's the perfect example of how she does it. And she takes it on the chin sometimes. She has been... I
am sure.
Yeah, really attacked by feminists and that. And who does she think she is? And you notice that she's the first woman...
She's a woman speaking for women. What a concept.
She was. And what was really neat about her is that, her parents got divorced when she was 3, which isn't neat. I'm not saying that is neat. But she was raised by her mother, her grandmother, and 2 unmarried aunts. So she was raised by women. She understands women. She understands them. She understands all women, even women who don't agree with her. And she's, willing to still stand her ground in a gracious way, in a very intelligent and well thought out way, which is really the way we have to go about it, not with the name calling and the personal attacks.
Right. You bring up a great point, Sue, because if you really are willing to sustain a respectful debate and share ideas, and you can do that passionately, but you have to be respectful of your intellectual opponent. And when you start going into the name calling, that means you just lost it. You just realized that you don't have enough argumentation to sustain your point. So the only way out is to go out and attack the person. Why not stay within the really mature intellectual position of sustaining your arguments without the name calling? And I think that's a basic principle of respectful debate. I think that if we had high school students listening at this point, and any of them in a debate club at high school level, I think that's one of the principles that they would say, yeah, we talked about that. That's a basic principle. So if high schoolers know this, why can't adults behave in such a way? That's what always strikes me.
I know, but it always comes that we let our emotions get out of control. We start to get hot-headed. And before you know it, it devolves into the name calling. But I think that's really what has divided our country so much, is this kind of language. And what we should do is just in our own circle of life, stop it. Just declare a moratorium on that and just be civil with one another. Let's get back to civility. Let's get back to common courtesy with one another. And then,
exactly.
And talk it up, but let the person know that they're loved and respected for who they are, and that you respect their point of view, even though you don't agree with it. But you respect it. And that a lot of times can diffuse situations.
Right.
When you come across that way, you can see your opponent perhaps getting angry and a little ruffled under the feathers, and you just come out and say, you know what, I respect who you are, and you're making a good argument for yourself. You really are.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You
and
earn
you watch
more
them.
respect.
They just really are taken aback by that. Oh, she said something nice to me.
Yes. No? Wow. Probably not such a bad person if she said something nice to me. And this is the real true Christian witness. It's very easy to love those who love us back, but to love whom we consider our enemies or whom we consider our opponents intellectually, that takes an extra step of maturity, and that is a great Christian witness. If you have been caught in a situation where you are trying to get a point across and you receive the name calling and that distracts the attention from the main point that you want to push forward, give us a call and maybe get some debating advice from Sue Brinkman, our staff researcher and journalist here at womenofgrace.com, our guest today on Women of Grace Live Radio. You're welcome to join us. 1-800-585-9396 is the number. And that number again is 1-800-585-9396. We go to Farmington, Maine, where Kieran is listening through the Presence Radio Network. Kieran, welcome to Women of Grace. What's your question for Sue Brinkman?
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
I respect both of you women greatly.
Thank you.
Thanks.
My question, I guess, would be, so I am a mother here in the western foothills of Maine. I have 6 children, 6 beautiful children, 5 amazing young men, and 1 beautiful daughter. And my husband and I are trying as best we can to raise our children, to form them as strong young men and a lady eventually. She's only 5. She's a lady now, actually, at 5. But we're working really hard, and we're putting that as our first priority, trying to. And I feel that there is an attack, constant attack on us because of how we are prioritizing our life with these children. And I guess my question would be, I'm on my knees. I'm starting my day on my knees. I'm taking in Mass and the sacraments as often as I can. But my life is so busy with these 6 children, with sports and all these things that they are interested in and that I'm interested in too and that I love. But it's a very busy, busy life, and you can get easily distracted. And so I think my question is, help. How do we, as husband and wife in our marriage, in our family, really and truly put first what should be put first, and that is God our Father. And how do we deal with the attack that we are feeling, and how do we stay strong?
Well, that you obviously have your heart in the right place. And the fact that these are your priorities, I just applaud you for that, because so many parents aren't even that far. That's great that that's what your priorities are. You should never lose sight of those priorities. And always remember that Jesus never said this was going to be easy. And he told us we were going to be up against this fight. But what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to put all of our trust in him, because we can do all things through him who strengthens us, St. Paul teaches us. So, we have to really begin to live that faith now. It can't be just words. It's got to be everything. And if you're starting your day on your knees, it sounds to me as if you are already well along on that path, and that's where you need to continue to go, is for you and your husband especially to grow in your faith, to try to achieve as best as you can Christian perfection with the grace of God, always relying on the grace of God for everything. Don't rely on yourself for anything. I always find that when I start to get discouraged, or and I kind of get despairing, or I want to give up this fight, it's always because I've lost sight of him, and I've begun to rely on me. And when I become aware of my weaknesses and I see how little I really can do, then then I say to myself, aha, now you know. You can't do it. You've got to rely on Him. So the most important thing you can do is strengthen your own faith, because that faith then will feed into your hope and your confidence in God. Jesus loves confidence. He loves it when we're confident in Him, when we say to Him, I know you can help me to work this out. I know you can help me, Lord, to raise my sons to be good Catholic men. I know you can help me, Lord, to make sure that my daughter grows up to understand what it means to be a daughter of the Most High God, and the dignity that she has been born with, and that is inherent in her right now. I know that you're going to help me and teach me how to do that. So I'm not going to worry, Lord. I'm not going to worry, because I know you're in my boat. You might be sleeping in my boat, and the storms are raging all around me, but I know who you are. I know the power of you, and I have no right to worry. That is exactly the way we have to look at things like this, because He never said it was going to be a cakewalk. He never promised us that. The other thing I found, too, in my own walk, what I found, especially society right now isn't very tolerant. They're not very tolerant at all. They're always screaming about tolerance, but the people who scream the loudest about being tolerant are the most intolerant, I have found. And
True.
Isn't it funny how everybody else's rights matter, but when it comes to your Christian and your right to live your Christian faith, you're a bigot and a hater? You know?
Yes, that happens often. And if you have been in a similar situation to Kieran, and Kieran, thank you so much for your call and for being so faithful to your mission as a Catholic mother, and we congratulate your husband as well as a Catholic father. If you are in that same position, give us a call and talk to Sue Brinkman, our staff researcher and journalist here at womenofgrace.com live this hour. The number is 1-800-585-9396. That number again is 1-800-585-9396. We'll go to Ellen and you after this, so stay tuned for more of Women of Grace.
Welcome to EWTN's Catholic Almanac.
It's January 13th, the optional memorial of St. Hilary, Bishop and Doctor of the Church. Hilary was a leading theologian of the 4th century and offered many brilliant defenses against the Arian heresy. Also, St. Colette, founder of the Colatine Poor Clares, was born on this day in 1381. At the age of 25, she had a vision telling her to reform the Poor Clares. In her lifetime, St. Colette founded 17 new Poor Clare convents and reformed several more.
It's time for your favorite EWTN program, but there's no radio? No problem. Download the EWTN app at EWTN.com/mobile and enjoy on-demand live streams of your favorite EWTN radio and TV shows right now.
I went to church and just sat there and listened. I really didn't absorb anything. I think I just found myself believing that I didn't need God. I just had everything under control, and church was actually a burden to me. I had this sin that I carried in my heart for a long time, and I told myself for many, many years that the Lord wouldn't forgive me for this. When Father in the confessional says, your sins are forgiven, there truly is a feeling of weight lifted off. I don't care if it's 2 or 3 little sins that you're carrying, there's a feeling of I can breathe deeply again. I feel pure inside, and I'm ready to come to Mass. You can have a beautiful car, a big fancy home. If you don't have Christ in your life, there's an emptiness that's there. When you come home to the church, you're coming home to a Catholic family where people today just embrace you.
If you've been away from the Catholic Church for whatever reason, we invite you to take another look. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org today.
Hello, this is Bishop Ronald Gaynor of the Diocese of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
This is Michael Warsaw, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of EWTN.
This is Father Mitch Pacwa. Thanks for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
32 minutes past the hour here on EWTN Radio's Women of Grace, coming to you live. And this is Elena Rodriguez sitting in for Janet Benkovic, who is traveling today. That's why she cannot join us live on the air. But we have Sue Brinkman, our staff researcher and journalist at womenofgrace.com, here as our guest to share with you this hour. The number to be part of the show is 1-800-585-9396. You'll be able to talk to our call screener, Matt Kabinski, and our lines are filling up very quickly right now. Actually, I'm going to give you the only number that is available right now, which is our international number, but you can also dial if you're within the United States, and that is 1-800-585-9396. 205-271-2985, as our lines just filled up. But we have that one number available. That is 1, then 205-271-2985. We have on the phone with us Kieran, who is a mother of a beautiful set of boys and a girl. She is trying to keep her witness and bring them up in the faith along with her husband, but facing many adversities. And Sue Brinkman has more for you, Kieran.
Awesome. I'll take it.
Okay.
Very good.
The other thing I started to say, about the intolerant, they just like to call us names, but they really don't have much of a good argument to stand on. But the one thing they don't want to hear is they don't want to hear any faith reasons. As soon as you start saying anything about your faith, they're just going to call you a hater and a bigot and all that kind of stuff. So I always say kill their argument with science, because we have all the science on our side. We have it all on our side. You look at the abortion issue. Look at all the problems that women are suffering from that, the depression rates, the suicide rates, the breast cancer rates. I mean, there's a plethora of studies out there showing that women aren't happy when they have an abortion. There's plenty of science behind that. You look at the transgender issue, that's the hot button issue right now.
Yes.
The suicide rates among people who have gone through with that surgery are horrendous.
Yes.
There are major medical voices in this country and around the world speaking up against this, saying that these surgeries, this big push to change genders is not working. And in fact, major hospitals like Johns Hopkins, they actually gave up their whole clinic and their whole practice in that because of the poor outcomes that's going on. So we have contraception, the rate of failed relationships, the increases in abusive women that have come about since we decided to turn ourselves into sex objects through the use of contraception. Not to mention the physical harm that's being done to women, as evidenced by all these lawsuits, tens of millions of dollars of lawsuits in physical damage and death done to women taking contraceptions like NuvaRing, the patch, Yaz. They're all over the place. I mean, there's plenty that you can come at people with, so don't feel discouraged. Jesus, he didn't say it would be easy, but he did give us a lot to work with.
Yes.
So,
Truly, I think he gave us everything. I'm sorry?
We just have to use what he gave us and just put it to good use.
And I am finding in my life that I really think what he left us with, in our church, with the sacraments that we have, he left us with everything that we need to, to whatever we need at any given point in our life is found in the church. With her sacraments. And I have personal experience with this, and I think if that people would just, slowly but surely, because that's, for a lot of people, that's how it needs to be, turn back to her. Mm-hmm. Turn back to her with whatever you are suffering with. And, our mother, the church, she will love us, and she will nurture us, and she will help us to take care. She'll take care of us. She'll help us with our needs. She'll help us with our wounds. She'll help us with whatever we're suffering with. And maybe we don't even consciously realize what it is that we're suffering with right now. But just go to her. Like we always do. Just go to your mother, and she'll take care of you.
That's beautiful. That is so true. That is true. Well, I'm fired up now, Kieran, thanks to you. I want to go out there and keep fighting.
Yeah. Well, when you have experience with the truth of this, and then you want to somehow figure out how you yourself can show this love, always through love, like bring Christ to the world and gently tell them, even though you really want to scream, but you have to just gently tell them, and you pray for each of these souls you encounter that are suffering, and you gently tell them your story and what's worked for you, and then you just pray and hope, and I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. I think that's all we have. We have to do that and rely on God, rely on His grace for everything. He will strengthen us no matter what comes at us. He'll strengthen us, and we'll get through it.
Yes. Yes. And may I also add that from from Lewiston, Maine, there's a bus headed to the March for Life, and it's a trip down, trip back. We're just hitting what we need to be there for, like right back.
In and out.
In and out. I'm going to be on that bus with my 3 oldest sons. Yeah, this is like crazy cool. My 3 oldest sons, Samuel, Isaac, and David, are going to be with me. My husband can't be with us for this trip, but this is the first time I've ever gone to D.C. for the march, and with my 3 oldest sons, and I am so psyched, pumped for this trip as a mother and what it's going to do for our relationship, me and my boys, and how it's going to offer them the opportunity to take their faith and put their boots to the ground. Come
Literally.
on, boys. So it's just an amazing opportunity, and I'm so thankful for my husband who does work, who will be, footing the bill for this trip, which isn't much. He's providing this for me and for us. So he's a good man.
God bless him. And
God bless, yeah.
It is great, Kieran. Your husband and those of the younger kids left behind, and of course your little girl, who I believe is the youngest at age 5. Is that right?
That's right.
And they can, even staying behind, they can watch the coverage of the March for Life on EWTN or even on EWTN.com for those people who might be at work at the time when it is broadcasted live. That will be Friday, January 27th, and during the day, starting, I believe, at 9 in the morning Eastern Time. And it'll be special coverage of everything regarding the March for Life. And then, of course, there's the Walk for Life San Francisco West Coast and One Life LA. So for more information, I suggest you go to EWTN.com to look at the times in your area. But what a wonderful witness, Kieran, that you are taking your spiritual motherhood and your physical motherhood so seriously, taking your boys out to the older ones out there to the March for Life. Dress warmly. You are from Maine. I don't have to describe, but you will be exposed to the weather elements for many, many hours. It will be a retreat like none other than your children have never seen.
That's right. That's right. And may I also offer that for those in my area, our state rally is this Saturday, tomorrow actually, in Augusta, Maine. We call it Hands Around the Capitol. And it's starting at 10 a.m., at St. Mary's right in Augusta. And it's kind of like our own state March for Life.
And an opportunity to be there, and many people who can't get out to DC, but they're closer there. So that our March for Life here in Birmingham also takes place tomorrow. It's going on around many cities around the country, so it's time to check your local listings, as they say, and be able to attend your local March for Life. Thank you very much, Kieran. Your witness has built me personally. I want to thank you from the bottom of your heart for sharing in today with us.
Absolutely, and thank you for your
Kieran.
witness. It fills me every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Kieran, and please make sure and stay tuned with us and check in with us often to keep us updated on your beautiful family. We go to Cleveland, Ohio, where Ellen is listening to EWTN Radio on the Rock. Ellen, your question for Sue Brinkman this morning. Go ahead, please.
Is this out for me, Ellen?
Yes, Ellen in Cleveland,
Ohio.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, Sue and Elena. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
That was a great last call that you just had. I'm going to the March for Life, too, with my husband and my little girl, and this will be the first time for them and the second time for me. And it was a great experience when I went a few years ago. My question is, I do a lot of pro-life posting from Live Action News, from Life Site News, Life News, and try to get the word out about Movie to Movement. I did a lot of work at the Bring America Back to Life conference with the Cleveland Right to Life in the past. And I guess, because in recent months and weeks, the language is so difficult in the political arena, and what we've just been discussing. People can say it's better to use contraception or to abort the baby than to have the baby suffer later. A little girl was killed by her mother in a town outside of Cleveland recently, and it's all been on the news. And she was, beaten by her mother, and her mother was a Chinese immigrant, and the little girl was 5. And I know it breaks everyone's hearts. And what can you say to the argument of, well, it's better to do these other things than to bring a child into the world and have it suffer? I want some really good facts that I can say without emotion when I talk to other people, which I do talk quite a bit if I can, but even among really good Catholics, it's hard to talk about these, to give an answer back. The things about contraception and abortion being related to cancer and all the things that we know that we're trying to push out in the marketplace, people don't really know, and there's a big, drive with the culture not to let that information get out there.
Yes, well, you can go to our website, actually, womenofgrace.com, and in our library we have a pamphlet called Women's Lives Matter.
Oh,
and it lists all of that research, and it's easy to just hand it out. It's easy to just hand it out. But as far as that, I've never bought that argument that it would be better to abort the child and let it to be brought into the world and then abused, because it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
It's like saying killing children is better than beating them.
Right.
Excuse me. I guess, where is that coming from? What kind of logic is that?
Right.
At least if you allow that child to be born, they have a fighting chance of beating that abuse, being able to escape that abuse, to heal from that abuse, to move on, perhaps help others who are in similar situations. I mean, all of us, nobody is in an insulated life here where we're not going to have some kind of suffering. So how far do you want to take that? Aborting people because, well, they could be abused by somebody, or they may grow up to suffer from some diseases, some different handicaps or different challenges that way. That's another reason why they want to kill people. But we have learned so much from those who suffer from different disabilities. This is how we've learned so much about the human body, by studying that and trying to figure out ways to help these people. We're not figuring anything out. We're not advancing science by just killing them all. I mean, that's not science. That's just killing them. I've never been able to buy into that argument, and for me, it's common sense that it's better that the person has a shot at life, because anything can happen with God. Anything can happen. It's not necessarily doom and gloom. And that person has a shot at least at living, at changing their circumstances perhaps, healing, moving on, and as I said, helping someone else who's in a similar situation. So there's never an excuse that, oh, well, I'll just kill this person because, that's better than letting them get beaten later on after they're born. That's just ridiculous.
And I totally agree with you. I just guess that in today's world, even really good people say it's better to put our daughters on the pill than letting them get pregnant. Do you know what I'm saying? Or it's better
let's raise our daughters to be sex objects and to see themselves as a sex object, because that's what happens when you put girls on the pill. They begin to see themselves that way. Right. They think, Freddie, you don't have to worry about it with me because I'm on the pill.
Right.
And they don't even realize it, but they're being taught that by putting them on the pill. This is not very deep thinking. This is just, let's have a quick fix here and make life easier for ourselves.
Oh, I agree. That's exactly the thinking. And bringing children into the world that have disabilities, I have a disabled brother, they bring light into the world and love into the world. And people just want to get rid of their problem. They want to get rid of a problem, and it's inconvenient for them when they, have an abortion. But even so, it seems to me like most abortion takes place now, not because maybe necessarily the child's in an environment where it is going to be abused, but because, or potentially, but because it's just it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient for the people that, go forward with it. But anyway.
It actually is. But also the whole culture of death is something that has to be fought. Because, what it's doing is it's decreasing our instinct of restraint against the vulnerable. And we're becoming aggressive toward them. And we're learning how to be aggressive toward them because of the use of contraception and because of the use of abortion. This is what's happening to us in society. It's a whole mindset. It's a whole mindset. And it's something that we need to fight because of it goes much further than just the murdering of an infant. It's also so damaging to women. It's so damaging to the psyche of women and to young girls. It has caused so much hardship in family relationships. All of this has got to come to an end. And one of the chief ways of fighting it, I think, is to fight abortion and contraception. Those are the two things that you've got to get rid of. And they both go hand in hand.
Right, I agree.
Right. Ellen, thank you so much for your question today. It has brought up a number of very good points so that we can share them here live on EWTN Radio's Women of Grace. God bless you, Ellen, for your efforts.
Thank you so much, Elena. Thank you.
God bless you. And we go to Dearborn Heights, Michigan, where Dana is listening to EWTN Radio through Sirius XM 130. Dana, your question for Sue Brinkman, please go right ahead.
Hello?
Hello, Dana. You're live.
Yes. I just want to respond with a very deep, grateful heart to the moms and the dads that have large families. I live around people that just have a selected one or two children where they could possibly have more. And I just want to thank those moms and dads and to know that I'm maybe one person in this world, there are more, that really are grateful. And I would not let anybody, I'm sorry, I just don't want people to think different. I think it's the most beautiful gift a family could have is more than one or two children. Or I do want to say that every time I do see a large family, which is very rarely, and it was in 2015, I was in a chapel, and there was a mom with 6 children, and mom and dad were there. And I'm one that's hesitant to speak out, but I eventually do. And I went up to her, and I just told her that I thanked her for having a large family. And she was very shocked to even hear me say that.
That's so nice.
I just wanted to put that point out.
I'm so glad you do, Dana, because, there are some places, and I've heard this from many women, mothers of large families, that they're actually treated with scorn when they go places like, what are you doing with all these children? And I've even heard of people saying that that's happened to them when they were in church.
Yeah, well, she was in shock. I have to, because I guess she was expecting the worst. But honestly, through the whole Mass, I was looking at these babies. They had ranged from about 18 months until like maybe 8 or 9. And I really wasn't concentrating on the Mass. I was concentrating on this family that was so beautiful and large.
Aww.
And how God had blessed them. And I just wish these moms and dads nowadays would consider more children.
Oh, and, I do too.
And not take it upon themselves that, they're going to play God.
Yes, they do. And they just, they're relying on themselves, and that's why they're afraid to do it, because they know that on their own they can't raise a large family, so that they decide, well, I'm not going to do that. But I really want to say that I agree with you 100%, Dana. My parish here is filled with families that have very large families, and we love them all. They are like the backbone of our parish. I mean, whenever we have something to do, it's all those kids that are pitching in and helping. And I mean, it's wonderful to see it. This is really what we should be doing, to be open to life. That's what they prove to me when I see a family like that. That this is a couple that's not only loves each other, but they love God.
Right.
They love God, and they're open to whatever God might answer them, and God will provide for them. That doesn't mean you have to be irresponsible about it. Nobody's saying that, but He will help you. And if I don't know of any mother really that doesn't want to have babies. They do love their babies, but I think so many of them are just kind of taught in this culture of death that, it's going to be too much money. There was a big article just earlier this week about how much money it costs to raise a child these days. It's $800,000 or something. I was like, who cares? Who's adding it up?
It's what counts now, because with if you could feed one mouth, you could feed another mouth.
Amen to that.
I mean, I just don't understand how they're thinking, because I have 4 children of my own, and I had lost 2 to miscarriage, and I'll tell you, it was just like I don't understand why they are. I look at it this way: they play God, and it's just like, well, I'm going to be in control of this. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to have any more than 1 or 2 kids. And I just, like I said, I was raised in a family of 5 children, and it just seems like after my parents had their family.
Dana, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we're coming to the close of the show. I just want to take a moment to thank you for your very heartfelt witness to life in spite of all attacks and adversities. Thank you, Sue Brinkman, for being on the show with us as well.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. We'll have you very soon next week on Thursday. Sue Brinkman will be with us. And I want to invite you to continue to tune in to EWTN Radio this afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern, EWTN Theology Roundtable about Fatima. Make sure to tune in and stay tuned to EWTN Radio.